is our publishing house's forgiveness expert. And let me read you a little bit about what Mary has done, because she's done a lot of fascinating things, traveled all over the world, teaching people everywhere. Now, Mary is a respected spiritual teacher based in Minneapolis, Minnesota, an original and expansive thinker, a pragmatic emotional healer, and an uplifting public speaker. Mary has inspired thousands of people since she first began teaching spirituality classes in 1982. Mary created and hosted her own local radio show, The Blue Couch, featuring interviews with local and national leaders in spiritual thought and holistic health. She is the director of the Midwest Institute for Forgiveness Training, where she teaches her 8-step method of forgiveness. Mary, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Deb. It's great to be here.
Well, it's good to have you. Now, Mary and I have met, and we've been blessed to meet in person before, because being fellow Beyond Words authors, we have a tendency to get together from time to time at different events. So it has certainly been a pleasure to meet this lady in person. She's the genuine article. That's what I like about Mary, is she's kind of like me in the sense that she has can have a very strong sense of humor and a realism to her, and still discuss very deep spiritual concepts. So that's what I like about her, and that's what I think I like to resonate most about her. Now, the wonderful thing about Mary is that she has a couple of books with us. We're going to be discussing today both of her titles with Beyond Words. We have the new Kitchen Mystic, which is actually just re-released through Beyond Words. It was originally released in its first print in 1992 by another publisher. Mary will talk about that. And then we're going to finish up our session today with the book that I'm most familiar with Mary, called Unconditional Forgiveness. So I hope you're going to be with us for the whole hour. And toward the end, we're going to talk about the very special bundle offering that Mary has for everyone that gives you access to some of her more in-depth work. So now, Mary, let's first talk about this onion. Tell me a little bit more about this onion and why it's on the cover of your book.
I love the onion. Love the onion. I have a piece in the book, turned out to be the title piece, about how I see God in everything, and I see God in onions. I think some people see God in stones and sunsets and forests and their children's eyes, and there's so many ways to look right in everyday life and see something amazing looking back at you. And oddly enough, since I was a little girl, I found that in the ordinary onion. So I remember when I was little and my mother cut an onion open, and I was just begging her to let me cut it too, and I couldn't believe it had all these layers, and it was so white, and it had this green energy in the middle, and it was going to sprout, and I just felt like, wow. So it's just one of my own little channels to divine consciousness. So the onion ended up on the cover, and it's still my friend today, especially red onions.
Oh, nice. Well, they are quite lovely. Very, very attractive. Now, Mary, what is kitchen mysticism?
Well, kitchen mysticism is kind of just what I just began to talk about. It's the ability to connect with the divine in everyday life. And so it's the ability to just be in your day and find yourself in a moment of just stopping in wonder and feeling your heart expand and your spirit open up and touching something bigger, something wonderful, something that's right there with you, watching you with great blessing. And this can happen at the bus stop. This can happen, in a chance encounter with another person. It can happen when you're sweeping your sidewalk and just wishing welcome to the people that come up your front walk to your house. So kitchen mysticism is the kind of spirituality that a lot of people are opening up to these days, which is it's mine, it's my own, it's my very own, it's in my life. And yes, I have some certain spiritual practices that a lot of people do, like prayer, meditation, intention, forgiveness is a spiritual practice. There's a lot of spiritual practices, but the kitchen mystic has their very own special relationship with that special something that we're all part of.
Now, we talked about how this is a rebirth of this particular book. Now, so the original book was The Kitchen Mystic, and this is the new Kitchen Mystic. Tell us a little bit about how this has come to pass to be back on people's bedside tables.
That's great. Well, the first Kitchen Mystic was the cutest little book. It was a tiny little book, and it had an onion on the cover. It was published by Hazelden, and they did a lot of really nice little books in those days for the spiritual path. And I wasn't planning on writing a book. I was just writing. I was writing my passion. I was writing my questions. I was writing my pain. I was writing my delight. I just had to write. And I wasn't even thinking of myself as a writer. It took me a while to realize, oh, I guess I'm a writer. Look, I've got books. I was just needing to do this for myself and needing to share it. I ended up sharing it in a local column and in a local newspaper. I ended up having my own little radio show and community radio locally. I just wanted to share all these things I was thinking about. So it ended up through a little bit of a mystical journey into this book, The Kitchen Mystic. And then I found that people loved this book. They loved this book. They ended up buying at least 4 copies of it. Some people bought 20 copies of it. They just loved it, maybe because it was so little, but actually I think it was because I wrote those pieces in a state of really connecting with that higher consciousness and really pouring some of that in there. So people tell me, this book, I read it again and again, and I get something new out of it. I moved by it over and over again, and I love this book, and I want to buy another copy. So some years ago, it went out of print, and nobody was interested in it, putting it back into print, but people kept calling me up and saying, it's Mother's Day, I want to buy my mother a book, it's a birthday, it's Christmas, I want to buy this book, how do I get this book? So I'm very grateful that it has reincarnated as the new Kitchen Mystic. So now I can tell people, now go buy your 4 to 20 books and give them out as Christmas presents and keep them around. So I feel really blessed about that.
Well, I personally really enjoyed reading it, and I like books of essays and things that because we don't all have an hour or two to sit down and explore the depths of our soul every day, and to be able to stop and read an essay, and a compliment to you to have your work, your original writings hold up very well over 20 plus years, and then to supplement those with additional essays. So people out there, it is actually a new book. It's the new Kitchen Mystic. There is a lot more information that she has in there for you, and some very, very poignant essays. I just found myself getting lost right in it. Now, Mary, I especially liked, you had a beautiful essay on the Serenity Prayer in this book. Why do you feel that the Serenity Prayer is important for people?
Well, the Serenity Prayer, of course, if you're not familiar with it, it's the one that says, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And that has been the central prayer of the 12-step community in the last 60 years. And so many people have found help and sobriety and sanity by living this prayer. And I love this prayer, and I wrote this piece about it because I feel like it's a universal human prayer. It's not, you don't have to be an alcoholic or a child of an alcoholic to appreciate this prayer. It has the beginning and the end and the middle of the spiritual journey in it. It's got the whole deal in it. So it's really day by day, if you think about it. Your best days are when you have got it right with, what do I have control over to change? What do I need to let go and accept? And how do I know that difference? How do I know if this is an action piece, a courage piece, or if it's a relax piece and just let it happen? That is really the question. And so in a way, this prayer, I've said in the essay, is an east-west contemplation, that the wisdom of the East, which tells us everything is fine, it's just what it is, and just accept it, enjoy your place in the dance of consciousness, and the wisdom of the West, which says, hey, you can use your will, you can impact your life, you can impact this world, let's get going here, let's just kindle some will and some action here. Okay, there's the East, there's the West, and the wisdom underneath both, which says, what's correct for now? What's dharmic? What's my duty for now? To push and to create, or to let go and enjoy things the way they are. So I think it's a fabulous prayer, and I still I find it as fresh as a daisy every time I say it.
I have always enjoyed the prayer myself, and I think it's amazing that no matter when we hear it for the first time, it almost embeds inside of us. So when we hear it again, we recognize it instantly. We start to recite it, so it goes to a natural resonance within us all. So I agree with you on the importance of it for people. Now, you go on in another essay, Mary, to talk about the struggle people have with the balance of giving and receiving. Tell us a little more about that.
Well, I think a lot of people are confused about how much and how and if to give of their time and energy, when to contain it, when not to, and also how to let love in, how to let help in, how to receive what's there for us. And a lot of us grew up in families where that was just a confused issue, where you had mothers that were doing too much or trying to fix everything, or you didn't have enough intimacy and comfort with your parents or with your immediate community, that you could just have this easy breath-like giving and receiving. So in the essay I say that a healthy person gives and receives like breathing, that our energy is meant to go out and to come back in, that we're meant to just breathe out who we are and share our gifts and share our energy and serve, and we're meant to breathe in appreciation, support, help, delight, love from other people, and that if you're doing that, everything feels safe and good. Everything feels full and right. And I think this is a natural function that a lot of us have to heal back into being able to do.
I agree fully. I think that balance, of course, is always the key. Now, I love in the book how you talk about, you admit fully to being a bit of a control freak. I'm not quite sure you use the word freak, but that's that's what I naturally go to when I talk about control. So how do you feel the New Kitchen Mystic can help people address that particular control issue in their life?
I resemble that remark, Jeff.
Me too, me too.
Well, and actually, just to give myself a little credit today, I wrote that one a long time ago, and I was much worse then. I was terrible then. I was a terrible control freak. And actually living my forgiveness work for 25 years has helped me be a well-recovered control freak and almost an ex-control freak. I really have learned through my forgiveness work how to let go and how to trust and how to know when it's mine to do something and when it isn't. But it didn't start out that way. I really feel like I have known times where I'm just wound really tight and watching everything and wanting it to come out a certain way and being sort of intense about little things. And that's sort of a form of anxiety. I guess you could say that is how anxiety plays out. And you're not always aware that it's anxiety. You think you're just right. You just think, I've just got this. And people should just pay attention to me about this. And they should just listen up and do what I say. And we think we're right, but we don't realize that's probably being driven by a sense of anxiety and that things aren't all right. Because if you are connected to your soulful self and to the day, to the present moment, to the here and now, usually things are all right. Usually you're safe. Usually you have everything you need right around you, right in front of you. Usually there's something nice to do in terms of giving or receiving love and loyalty with another human being. It's not that hard. So if we are finding ourselves really intensely focused in on getting something to happen that just we can't get to happen, we might want to address it from a different way. We might want to say, this is actually kind of a fear issue of mine, isn't it? This is actually kind of a worthiness issue of mine, isn't it? What if I just drop into assuming maybe that I'm all right and that everything's all right, and why don't I forgive this situation? In other words, the way that I teach forgiveness is, why don't I really learn to release my expectations of people and things and life when I need to, and have them as preferences, have it as just, this is what I would prefer. And I'm going to lobby for what I prefer. And if I can't get it to happen, I'm going to let go. I'm going to let go and relax, see what I can enjoy.
Wonderful point. As you were talking, I was just reflecting on a personal story of my own in which I learned a lot about how to control a situation. We had, I was planning my husband's, this was a few years ago, husband's 50th birthday party, and I am uber organized, control freak about a lot of different things. I had every single detail planned. We were having a big Hawaii 5-0 party, so it was all themed with the tropical shirts and all this kind of stuff. His birthday's in August. We had all this stuff going. In the middle of the party, we had a hailstorm. So,
Deb, why didn't you do something about that?
You know what we did?
How did you let that happen?
We had such a good time, but it was such a lesson for me to realize that I could have all of those things in place, everything organized, to the pineapple whatevers, to the different kinds of cakes, to everything we could do. But in the end, something came about that we were not expecting that made us all have a tremendously wonderful, memorable time. Because you should have seen us covered in hailstones.
With your flowered shirts. I'm picturing the flowered shirts and the big chunks of ice falling. It's beautiful. That's just glorious.
Absolutely wonderful. So that experience, Spirit did teach me quite a lesson about control there. Now, Mary, you are known primarily for your work on forgiveness. I want to remind our viewers you're watching Beyond Words Presents. Our guest today is Mary Hayes Grieco. Now, Mary, we're starting to get some questions in from some of our viewers, so I'm going to go ahead and launch right into that. So one of our viewers asks, how do you know when you need to forgive something or someone? So how do you know when it's time?
Okay. Well, I would say there's a few indicators. One would be you're thinking about this person or situation way too much. They're just in your head. And there's probably some other things that you'd like to be doing. Maybe you'd like to be working on a project or something creative, or enjoying yourself, or advancing your work or something, but your mind is all bundled up with these stories, and you're not really living as proactively into your present and future as you'd like. So that would be one way to notice it. Another way to notice it would be that you're tense around the person. And you see the person and your stomach tightens up, your shoulders get like rocks, you feel stilted and kind of quiet and hostile and angry. You can't really just talk. You can't really see them for who they are. So that would be another way to notice what happens in your body. If you are losing sleep about something, you're laying in bed and you're winding and winding the details of the story, you're trying to solve something mentally that can't be solved mentally. It has to be released emotionally and healed spiritually. So very often, if we're just in our heads obsessing about something, it's really a forgiveness issue, and it's something that needs to be addressed in a way that includes your head but is not primarily through your head.
Now, this is about them, right? Not necessarily the person that they need. The healing is for themselves, to do this. You need to. Yeah,
that's a very good distinction to make. We do forgiveness for our own peace of mind. And it's not, in my book, now there's a lot of different approaches to forgiveness these days. It's kind of a growing field, if you will. I've heard from one of my colleagues that there's now 12 trade books, and there's 26 models and methods of how you do forgiveness. And my model and my method has 8 steps. And it's a holistic model and method with a universal spiritual approach. It's not Christian-based or based on any other kind of paradigm. It's a holistic approach. But I lost my train of thought. What were we talking about?
Forgiveness.
Forgiveness. All right. I got it. So in my book, in my frame of reference, forgiveness is something we do for ourselves, and it's not interactive with the other person. It's not like you go to them and say, hey, I'd like to work this out. I'd like to forgive you. I'd like you to forgive me. That's a whole different thing. That's called reconciliation. Or even if it's something more heavy than that, between a criminal and a victim, it's a restorative justice. So there's this kind of spectrum of things that go on with forgiveness. But in my teaching, forgiveness is a private, personal experience that we do for ourselves to move on. And it's an independent decision whether we talk to the other person about it, whether we hang out with them at all. You want to forgive and not see them again? That's okay. You want to forgive and get a divorce? That's okay. You want to forgive and say, you know, I'm going to trust them with this and this, but not with this and this in my life. That's a wise thing. So forgiveness is a kind of a refreshing, resetting kind of experience that will allow you to be with people who are in your family, for instance, that you don't get to avoid, and just feel neutral about them. You'll feel neutral. You won't feel hostile or tense anymore.
Another viewer asks, what if you kind of know in your rational mind that you should be forgiving someone, but you're just not quite ready to do that?
Yeah, well, that's a real common situation. And so here's the thing. You have to ask yourself, at step 1 in my 8 steps, we're asking ourselves, am I willing to forgive? Why or why not? And you have to kind of explore that a little bit. Why am I holding on to this? What do I think I'm getting out of it? Well, maybe I'm holding on to it because I feel like I'm right and that they have been very wrong and unjust, and I'm waiting for some kind of acknowledgement of that from someone somehow. That might be one thing. Maybe we feel like staying angry keeps us safe from having further abusive situations with that person. And it's really an illusion. Your anger is a doorway to your power, but it's not a house to live in. Think about that. Your anger is a doorway through to your power again, but it's not a place to live. So in my method, step 2 allows us to do the anger, to do the heartbreak, to do the disappointment, to do the judgment. And a lot of people on a spiritual path are afraid these days to speak words that aren't positive, because we're aware of creating our situations with words, and we are afraid of judging people. But in fact, you are judging them. Your mind is judging them like crazy. And so you actually have to honor the human part of yourself and let yourself go through that. So when we do forgiveness, we say, all right, this is a sacred space, a special time. We are making a container here within which I get to say that I'm moving on. And in step 2, I get to do the painful work of the emotional body. I get to really cry hard or tell that person they're a jerk or say a lot of language with a lot of F words in it and use your body language and kick a cushion, anything. If you feel really insulted by someone, you have some bottled up energy, you can do some things to move that anger. And it's not going to hurt them, it's not going to hurt you, because it's inside this overall journey and intention to get clear and to actually be more loving overall.
Now, Mary, you're doing an excellent job going. Let's finish going through that 8-step process. Let's use the scenario, very common scenario in our society, of infidelity. So, say we're dealing with a couple, been together, 15 years, they have little kids, the whole gamut, very common in America, and one of the partners has cheated, and they're trying to decide. They want to stay together. Their values are to stay together as a family. And I don't think sometimes that's supported. It's easier just to cut bait and move along. Take us through the rest of your 8 steps. How would this couple move through your stages?
Okay, very good. First I want to say we have to be clear before we start the forgiveness process. Let's say it's the husband that's been unfaithful and the wife is hurt beyond, all believing, and would prefer to be able to go forward together as a couple, as a family, and he has, apologized and gone to therapy and is, making changes that look like maybe he could become trustworthy. But let's just give her a little bit of support at the beginning and say, you know what, you don't have to trust him before you do. And you don't have to stay with him. This is really up to you. But meanwhile, we want to help you get all this pain out of your system so you can see him clearly now in the present, and you don't just have these painful images of him and another woman in your head. We want you to be able to see him clearly and feel your heart again for him, and then decide powerfully if you're going forward or not. So let's just say we've given her full permission for that, and here we go into the 8 steps. So she comes to see me in my private office, and we've agreed she wants to clear her heart. So we've agreed maybe she's going to come see me between 1 and 3 times to take care of this issue. So we have step one, okay, why are you willing to do this? I'm willing to do this because I need to see if this can work. I prefer to have a family for my children, okay, and I do care about him. All right, step two, let's deal with the emotions. And in the emotional part, we're going to have have a chair out in front of us, and we're going to imagine he's sitting in the chair, and we're going to give her full permission to sink into where she's carrying her pain, in her belly, in her heart, in her throat, in one of those areas, and let him have it. To say, how dare you, and I hate you, and the thought of you, and F you, and cry and yell and get those feelings out, because she feels very violated. And she's going to really let that rip, and my job is to help her keep letting it come out until she gets to the bottom of it. Guess what? You get to the bottom of emotional pain. When you let yourself go there, it has a bottom. And it usually takes about 20 minutes. And you're afraid to stick with it, but you stick with it, and it's done. Okay. So then she goes, oh, okay, that's it. I can't say anymore. I've cried long enough. I've said it all. What do I do now? We go to step three. In the mind, we've gone from will to emotions to mind. Step three, we are releasing expectations that are causing this suffering to stay in place. So she's going to say, I would really prefer that you had been capable of faithfulness our entire marriage. I would really with all my heart, prefer that we had been spared this story. But that's not what happened. And so I now release my expectation that you would have been faithful in the past. And she'll take some time, and she'll go inside herself, and she'll just let that painful little stagnant block of energy just dissolve. And it will, because she's let all those feelings out. And she might have a few other preferences. I would prefer that you had been honest with me, that I could always trust your word from now on. But it won't be easy for me. And yet I will now release my expectation that you had been honest with me in the past. So bit by bit, we're going to clear this out. Maybe there's 3 or 4 expectations she has to let go of. And then she'll kind of feel again like, okay, a shift, something clearing. Let's go to step 4, our boundaries. And I give you full responsibility for what you did and how it affected everybody. And I have responsibility for me and my decisions. And then she's going to visualize her personal space, her auric field, her bubble, her personal ego bubble around her with like this healthy light that she's walking in. It's just her. And that feels wonderful. People love that. They start feeling the power of really separating in a healthy way from what this person has done. And then she goes to her relationship with life. Step 5, I'm going to open up to the universe to receive what I need now. I'm going to open up to spirit to get exactly what I need here and now. No matter what he's doing or not doing, I am really getting, I am really going to be taken care of and get what I need. And that also feels really helpful and wonderful. And then we go to step 6, where we imagine a source of healing light over the head, and we imagine that we can bring down this beautiful white light from above our heads down into our personality, body, emotions, mind. We're cleaning and cleansing and clearing this issue. And then we're letting that go through us, and we extend it to them. We extend this light and unconditional love to that person just the way they are, and we let them go. And at the end, you're at step 8 now. We're going to see the good in that person, or see the good in ourselves, see the good in the situation. And that's what we're going to focus on as we go forward. We're going to focus on the good and build from there.
Mary, what an empowering process.
It really is.
I truly appreciate how you make it about the person, that needs to go through the forgiving, and not projecting out upon everybody else and every other situation and why me. That's a beautiful, beautiful process.
And interestingly, if you do that completely without any expectations or holds, just for yourself and clearing it, it's amazing how the dynamic between you and the other person immediately starts to shift. You come out of it thinking, wow, they really changed. I don't know how they changed so much. But in fact, your new energy and your lack of judgment is no longer dancing with their guilt or whatever else, and there's a whole new possibility for good relationships with people.
Well, and I think that's very important to make in this situation, is that a couple may decide to make it work and stay, but a few years later may make another decision because that person, having gone through such a painful process and the forgiveness of it, has learned a lot about themselves, and maybe their life's going to go in a different direction and be a blessing in disguise. So it's sometimes our greatest hurts, cause us to, that little spark that lights the fire under our butts to get moving and make the changes that we need. So I think that's incredibly powerful process. Now, you say that it's possible to forgive everyone of everything. Is that really true?
You know what? It really is. It's really true, because the thing is, forgiveness is something you always have the power to do. Nobody can make you do it, and nobody can make you not do it. It's yours. You have the power to choose your attitude. You have the power to choose how you're going to hold your consciousness. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't have to do with the seriousness of the offense. And I have heard some very, very bad stories in my career being with people and forgiveness. I've heard some terrible stories. And I'm not even going to tell you, the worst of the stories, because I don't want to really bum you out. But what I'm going to tell you is those people got free. The people that used this method and went there with their power and their sincerity and my help, they got through it and they were free. They got unhooked from this terrible thing. And it's an amazing thing to see. It's really a rebirth thing to see. And that's why I keep doing this, because it's just so miraculous and beautiful. And just kind of building on the last question you had, I want to just share that one of the most intense stories I saw between a couple occurred with a couple whose husband was arrested in another state for being a sexual predator. He was in jail calling his wife, who knew nothing about this part of him. He was her good husband, her best friend, great dad to her kids. She knew nothing of this part of him, which was a sexual addict, and when he went out on business trips, went and accosted other women, until he got arrested, and she got this call, and suddenly she's got this guy who she thinks she knows and loves, and he's got this whole other side of him that does this really creepy, awful, terrible, wrong thing. And what's she going to do? He's a great partner, a great provider, a great father. He actually himself doesn't know why he does this. And so I watched their journey for about 3 years. He went into pretty intensive treatment for men that have this problem. She went to a group too. She did a lot of forgiveness work with me, but it didn't take more than 2 or 3 times with me for her to really clear and decide what she was going to do. Meanwhile, her family is saying, get rid of him, and she lost half her family for a while because she decided to stay with him. And guess what? They recovered. He doesn't do anything remotely like that anymore. He really, really processed something deep and weird and got to a good place. And those two are in good shape. So I think if a couple can get through that forgiveness story, there's a lot of other ones that are easier.
Oh, certainly. That is a powerful example, because I think our society does like to have that us and them attitude, that some things are actually unforgivable, that you should never forgive, but they forget that there's a lot of lives attached to that kind of thing, a lot of hearts, children, parents, lots of different things that go on. So it is important, whether or not you choose to make a life with that person again. As you said, you don't want to give them space in your head and your heart for the rest of your life. You need to get to a better place of at least forgiveness, understanding, simply to even be free of the pain.
Yes, and we're not saying that it's not wrong what the other person did. We're not saying that that was unjust and unfair and wrong and immoral and everything else that it was. That's true. What we're saying is that even though this person has done those things, we are not going to carry the impact of that around. It's their karma, if you will. It's theirs to live with, if you will. That's in step 4. When we give them back responsibility for their actions, I'm not going to lay awake thinking about what this guy did when he was being really nutty. I'm going to go to sleep because I'm living within my own conscience. So it's bad, it's wrong. We're not changing that. We're saying we're not going to suffer about it. We're going to give that person to their own soul, to spirit, however you want to call it, for the responsibility of what they've done.
Thank you. Very, very powerful, Mary. You are watching Beyond Words Presents. Our guest today is author Mary Hayes Grieco, and we are talking right now about her book, Unconditional Forgiveness, and how each one of us can embrace these teachings in our lives to live a full and powerful life, because we all do have people to forgive and ourselves to forgive. Isn't that true, Mary?
We really do. And I think that's the harder one. And when we teach our forgiveness workshop, I teach a weekend forgiveness intensive for the public. It's open to everyone. And we've got one coming up November 22nd to 24th. But when we teach that, I noticed the first night, everyone is so eager to go to the self-forgiveness as soon as possible. They're so weary of feeling ashamed and feeling inadequate and feeling like a disappointment to themselves and others. And it's really kind of funny how, in fact, we're not that disappointing. You know, we're pretty wonderful. We're pretty great people, but we have these expectations of ourselves that we can't meet, that maybe they're unrealistic, maybe they don't really fit our personality. And until we can really forgive ourselves from this higher level of consciousness, we always feel like we're falling short. And that's so painful. So in my book, Unconditional Forgiveness, we have a whole chapter on self-forgiveness. And we have an exercise that you can do. And it's a very simple but powerful experience when you're able to let go of that veil of illusion that causes us to feel bad about ourselves.
Now, Mary, you talk about in the book, you talk about the need to forgive is sort of a public health issue. What do you mean by that? Why do you think that way?
Well, there's plenty of studies these days that are showing us, from medicine and from psychology, that are showing us what we know intuitively to be true, which is that resentments are bad for us. They're toxic. Emotional toxicity is at the root of a lot of stress illnesses, stress-caused illnesses. So we need to do forgiveness so that we are not, tight in our stomachs and our heart, and we're raising our blood pressure and causing back pain and all sorts of other physical symptoms that are, really reason to take some time to learn forgiveness. So in the same way that now the public now knows we need to drink water every day. We all need to drink a lot of water, and it's kind of like this much water for your weight, and we need to eat 5 fruits and vegetables a day. If we want to stay cancer-free, we want to eat 5 fruits and vegetables. And, we want to exercise three times a week at least, for at least half an hour of aerobic exercise. There's these things that are getting into our public awareness around what causes health and what maintains health, and I think forgiveness is right up there with that. We need to be able to let go. We need to be able to forgive people and not carry around resentments. It's not good for us.
I think that many of us don't even realize how long we've been carrying things. And you'll reflect back on your life to school days, for example, whether it's grammar school or high school or college, and you're realizing you're still holding grudges from sometimes even minor casual relationships. I mean, it's not like some of these people ever even turned out to be of your life and in your life, but you're still thinking about that day on the playground.
It's
because
amazing.
Somehow we still define ourselves by 5 minutes when we were 10 years old.
That's right, and that's keeping us small. It's keeping us small and insecure and full of doubt. And that 10 minutes was gone many, many years ago, but there's still a part of you that's stuck in that place and time on the playground and is doubting yourself and wondering if you're good enough. So it's it's really amazing. I remember one time I forgave a college boyfriend who broke up with me, and it wasn't even like a huge relationship. It wasn't like one of my really big special relationships. I was just dating him, and he broke up with me. And here it was like 15 years later, and I thought, well, I'm going to forgive him because I've been thinking every time I think about him. And I forgave him. I was amazed at how much energy was tied up in that little incident, how I felt so released and free and like, peppier and prouder and happier after I forgave this boyfriend who probably, forgot about me the moment he broke up with me. But on some level, that was tying up a piece of my energy. So we actually are giving ourselves a big boost by reclaiming lost energy every time we forgive somebody. We're reclaiming lost vitality and kind of recycling it back in for the present.
I appreciate what you were saying earlier about feeling it in our bodies, and where we think something might have been forgotten or rationally resolved, we can find the tell in us. So for example, like, if I think of a situation, a friend that, betrayed or something, I'll still like see that person's picture, go, because, and you think, whoa, that was long ago.
I know. I heard a really good
brings
test.
that up.
I heard a very good test for that, and it still works for me. It's really kind of telling. They say if you wonder if you have forgiven someone, think about them if you heard that they won the lottery and they had some great piece of good fortune. And how do you react to that? How do you respond to hearing that someone that you were mad at has had something wonderful happen for them? Do you go, oh, good for them? I'm happy for that human being. Or do you say, oh, great. Yeah, right. Like, he deserves that. It's very telling. And another way of saying it is to, if you can let the person walk through your mind, walk through the purview of your mind without a harmful thought attaching to them. Just let them walk through and just see what thoughts are going to come up and try and grab on or poke or attach to that person. That shows you still where your expectations are stuck.
I think that's a powerful exercise for people, and I think that might be something nice to do for folks around the Thanksgiving holiday, not only expressing your gratitude, but doing a little forgiveness inventory.
Let's do a little house cleaning.
How you can lighten your load, exactly. Ooh, I think I like to do little activities around Thanksgiving myself, of not just that gratitude, but how I can look at my life. And I think that would be a good one, Mary. Thank you for that suggestion. Now, I want to take a little bit of a break right now and talk about the bundle offering that you have for people, because it's very comprehensive, and I want to make sure that I get everything proper and correct with it so people know what we're talking about. But as Mary was saying, she offers a lot of different individualized classes and trainings, and she's always doing really cool, fascinating stuff involving both of her work. So not only Unconditional Forgiveness, but the New Kitchen Mystic. So in addition to being one of the leaders in forgiveness, she's a teacher of spirituality, so she can, bring that onion to you and explain how it all relates to your life. So part of what she's brought forth with her today is an offering, a bundle package worth almost $500, $487 for only $99.95. And I'm going to read through the list of what that includes, and then Mary might give us a little bit of insight to some of that. So she is offering a Peaceful Heart audio guide, Women's Ways audio, a 30-minute phone consultation regarding forgiveness issues right there with Mary. You would have this private. You're not in part of a call on this. This is your time with Mary. A 3-hour online seminar offered that's going to be taking part in the first of the year on January 4th. So this is an online seminar that would be with others. A lifetime guest pass to the Forgiveness Weekend Intensive. That alone is a $275 value. In addition to the New Kitchen Mystic book, which was just out recently, and of course Mary's book, Unconditional Forgiveness. So Mary, that is quite an offering package you have for everyone today.
Well, they deserve it. They deserve the best. So I brought out my best, and maybe some people will connect with it and say, yeah, I'm vibing with that. I'm going to do that.
Well, I think it's a beautiful offering. Now, tell us a little bit about what you would do in a coaching session with someone.
Well, the half-an-hour phone session would give us a chance to talk about either of two topics. One could be your own individual spiritual path and like what might be best practices for you in terms of really bumping up your joyful and meaningful experience in how you do your spiritual road. So that would be one topic. The other would be about your forgiveness issues. We would take a look at the lay of the land in terms of, what stories you're aware of and which ones seem to be the most important now to clear through, and maybe focusing in on one story, one forgiveness issue that's sort of milder, easier, medium weight sort of thing to practice on and use the book or use the audio book to get through it and experience it, and then to tackle a bigger one. And I always suggest people tackle the bigger one with some support. So that could happen at another time in another place with telephone coaching, with me helping you, or if you have a minister or a sponsor or a therapist or somebody who would work with you in the future, I could give you some guidelines about how to set that up and make it happen.
I think that's very strong, powerful opportunity for people, Mary, now, because I don't think any one of us, we all need to forgive somebody somewhere, don't we?
Well, most people I've met do.
Yeah.
Not always aware of it, but it might be, I find that forgiveness sort of comes and taps you. It starts tapping you on the shoulder and saying, maybe you should take care of that. Maybe you should be done with that now. Maybe you should forgive this now. So if forgiveness is starting to come to your awareness as a thing that maybe you want to apply in your life to feel better, then this book and the audiobook, The Peaceful Heart, also is very helpful. That came out a number of years ago, but it's the same model and method, the same material, different stories, but it's also audio. So if you like to be led through something instead of reading it, they both, people are visual learners or auditory learners or both. And the book, this book has, the forgiveness book has really nice illustrations and really nice way of setting up the steps so you can do it easily. And the audiobook has me telling you what to do next. So if you like the sense of working with me or having being able to listen, then that's good too. And I have to say, many people tell me they put it on to go to sleep. I don't know how I feel about that, but it's actually got such a nice, deep, intimate quality to it. These audiobooks, The Peaceful Heart and A Woman's Ways, were both recorded in a beautiful sound studio at Minnesota Public Radio. And we had a wonderful crew. The director and the producer were all really spiritual, and we lit a little candle and prayed for people before we recorded it, and I got to just really kind of stream it, really channel it, which is the best way that I work. And so it has a very natural and warm and alive quality to it, and people love it, and they use it again and again. And they tell me on the Peaceful Heart CD that the self-forgiveness exercise is especially potent, and they use it over and over.
Oh, wonderful. Now, just a reminder to everyone that in this six-item bundle that Mary has brought with her today, again, it was a $487 value to viewers of Beyond Words Presents only for $99.95. So, Mary, thank you so much for bringing this bundle forth to your viewing audience. I keep wanting to say listening audience, but I forget they can see us too. So it's like one of those things. It's like, oh yeah.
Yes.
Now, Mary, I want to get back a little bit on forgiveness. I confess to being one of those people that buried things deep inside, thinking that I didn't have to forgive people, that I could just forget about something, put it deep down in. But I found it rearing even decades later through dream state, through, it would just kind of be triggered by something else. What piece of advice do you have for, I don't know if I want to say reluctant forgivers, but just maybe people who don't acknowledge that there's some forgiveness to be done in their life?
Well, I guess those people are probably not going to be drawn to this thing that we're doing today as much. But, I actually don't try and tell people that they should forgive. I don't try and get people who are reluctant to do it. Only if they are like really displaying a lot of stress and angst and emotion about it all over the place, and I don't want to hear it anymore. I might say to them, this looks like a forgiveness issue. It looks like this is really bothering you, And I'd suggest that you take some time now in the near future to clear it, because you are going to feel so much better. Do you know how to forgive? Here, there's a way, and it's not going to take you that long. Once you educate yourself about what forgiveness is, read the book or listen to the audiobook or get online and read the steps or whatever. Once you educate yourself about it and you decide to go there, it only takes, an hour of your life. If you're carrying this painful sore around for 10 years and it's going to take an hour of your life once you're ready to clear it, why wouldn't you do that? It's like if you had a bunion that you could get removed from your foot, or something really painful and annoying that these days surgeons can take care of that pretty well. Well, forgiveness is kind of like that. I once had a therapist tell me, wow, this is like the 5-minute abs of psychology. You got everything here. So,
I think in some cases it's not that. I think some people just didn't even know they needed to. For example, having an abusive parent, you might have been raised thinking that you deserved it, that you deserved that type of treatment. So you didn't know you had to forgive your dad for being abusive, or for leaving, or for whatever the case may be. So you discover that a little bit later on in life as you are a parent or a partner. Some of these things come back and you're like, oh, I get it now.
Yes, and in that situation, you don't want to forgive too soon. Maybe you grew up thinking, yeah, maybe I deserve this bad stuff, and maybe I shouldn't really be angry. And you go to therapy and you find out, wow, I've been really mistreated. Wow, I was an innocent person and I was really treated poorly. And wow, this has messed me up. You need to visit the wound enough to know what it did to you and how it shaped your life, and what kind of beliefs you took on about yourself and about life and about people. You need to get to know the wound enough to see what's kind of caught up in it before you forgive. So it's not good. I don't like it when there's some terrible story on the news, like, the Amish village that was attacked, by a gunman, and they killed half their children, and, they get on and they say, well, but we've forgiven him. I think, no, that's too soon. That's too soon. It's good to have an intention for forgiveness, ultimately. That will take you forward better, to have step one in place. I will forgive this when I'm ready. But it's not good if you have been violated to say, well, they did the best they could, and, I forgive them. No, if you have all that toxic hate and shame stuck inside you, you have to take a little bit of time with it.
Excellent point, Mary. Yeah, that's exactly what I was getting at, because sometimes, we don't realize we were wronged, especially as a young child, or, many people that grew up in either abusive households or alcoholic households. You just don't quite realize. You feel the resentment within you, but you don't quite equate it to the whole forgiveness process. So
Right.
Thank you. I think that's really important point. Now, we have just a few minutes left, but in our final time, tell us a little bit about what someone could do right now, today, to help them on the forgiveness path, whether it be of themselves or of someone in their life.
Okay, that's great. Well, I would get a notebook, and I would draw a line down the middle of the page. And on the left side, I would say forgiveness issues towards others and situations, towards people and situations. On the other side, I would say forgiveness issues towards myself. And just without holding back, without thinking too hard, just do a brain dump and just say, okay, yes, my ex, my teacher, my brother, da-da. I know that I have still some negativity towards these people, or a situation, lost my job, didn't get what I thought I was going to get in a certain situation. Just write those down too. Things about yourself. Well, I don't love myself because I'm 20 pounds overweight, according to me, and I won't love myself until I lose 20 pounds. Okay, overweight. I'm always 10 minutes late. Oh, I really thought I was going to be making more money by now, and I'm not, and I feel like a failure. Oh, okay, so you list those out, and then just look at that list and see which one would give you the most peace here and now, today, to let it go on both sides of it. Which thing towards another person do you need to let go to really feel a lot lighter? Which thing about yourself do you need to let go because you're beating yourself up too much? So take those two and then start walking around quietly with step one in your head. Say, I am willing to forgive these things. I am willing. I am willing to learn about forgiveness and to start with these two issues. And then study up. Get the book, study up about the 8 steps towards another, and take a Saturday morning, turn off the phone, close the door, get a Kleenex, and do it. Do those 8 steps towards that thing. And you'll feel so much better. I'm getting emails and letters from people all around the country now who are reading my book and are saying, I did it. I did it on Saturday morning. I did it by myself, and I feel like $1 million. And I never got rid of it in therapy, but it's gone now. So it really can happen. And the same thing with the self-forgiveness. Think about getting the bundle, because then you have both the book and the audiobook, the CD, and let me guide you through the self-forgiveness issue. It'll take about 15 minutes, 20 minutes to go through the self-forgiveness issue, and you'll feel so much better. So there's plenty of ways to get started. And invite people to think about my website in the future. Right now, this week, my website is in transition and in having a technical issue. But in the future, in a couple days, just check me out. Go look at lifegetsbetternow.com or forgivenesstraining.com.
Well, Mary, that's absolutely wonderful advice that you've given us. And as Mary said, she has a wonderful bundle for all of you. Don't forget, that's only $99.95, an almost $500 value. And you can access that directly from the Beyond Words website. So just go to www.beyondword.com/Grieco, Grieco. I'm going to replace Grieco, and all of the information and the explanation and descriptions for what each of those items are will be right on that, and that will be up on that page. So for quite some time, but go check it out, take a look. And again, I wanted to point out, because I love to give books to people for gifts. This is an adorable little book. This is Mary's I want to say latest release with Beyond Words, but it's obviously her re-release of her original work that has stood the test of time for over 20 years, The New Kitchen Mystic, and it's a beautiful gift book for others. So I can't say any more, or half people will know when I'm getting them for the holidays. But I think out there people would enjoy it, because it has a lot of nice essays, as Mary describes them, that just talks about a lot of different spiritual issues that affect us all, and the examples are lovely. So we could find ourselves in each of the different situations that she's in. So next week on Beyond Words Presents, we're going to be joined by Sean Mulvihill, who at the moment is in Italy studying theater at a different level, but he helped bring forth the film Living Luminaries. So he'll be joining us next week to talk about that whole process. And so I think you'll be delighted to join us for that conversation. Again, if you want to learn more about Mary Hayes Grieco, please visit her own website or join us at beyondwords.com. She has her own bio page there with lots of different links to all of her different work, and you can learn more about her and all of her future works there. But Mary, thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope we'll have you back sometime.
Thank you, Deb. It was fun.
Oh, I had a good time too, and I learned a whole lot. And but I still have some more work to do. I think we all do in regards to forgiveness. So, but thank you for making it easy for us, and I hope people take advantage of those private sessions and the bundle offerings you have. Thank you. Have a great day, everyone. See you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.